Hi, my name is Jigyasa and I'm from Slam Out Loud. I've been an educator for the last 5 years, and I believe that although education cannot replace social justice, it can set a chain reaction which starts with people recognizing themselves and their own voices, which is why I started Slam Out Loud with a vision that every individual will find their voice and use it to empower their own lives. So at Slam Out Loud we use art forms like storytelling, theatre, spoken word poetry and even visual arts to work with children from disadvantaged children who are about 10 to 17 to build in them creative confidence, which will in turn enable them to break the cycle of negative outcomes. The first set of children of Slam Out Loud were the children that I started working with myself from the year 2014, and Abbas came into this group in about 2015 ending 2016, and I met Abbas actually at a TFI event where some other Slam Out Loud kids were performing poetry, and he approached me and he said that I write poetry as well and I want to be a part of this group, which is when I remember giving him my email ID, and he didn't email me but he found me on Facebook and he constantly messaged me about how he wanted to be in the group, sent some poems, and I think his persistence was one of the reasons of him becoming a part of Slam Out Loud, because until then the poetry that he had was very, very little, and he had just begun to explore what rap as an art form can look like. I've seen Abbas evolve over the last 2.5 years from someone who had a lot of anger within him to someone who now has an opinion but also knows where to direct his anger or his rage, and rather than react to circumstances, think of a way he can respond, and in a way that it can powerfully convey not only his emotions, his ideas, but can also rally people towards something that he supports. And that's what I've seen happening from his actions. So whether it is bringing people together to end corporal punishment in school, or whether it is bringing people together to think about an issue like LGBTQ rights through his poetry, through his expression. And I've seen Abbas as someone who really believes in his ideas and knows how to stand up for them. While some of the ideas that he has in his head are still developing, he's still exploring himself in the realm of those ideas. I feel that when he establishes in his mind an idea about how one thing seems very, very right and how one thing seems very, very wrong to him, he doesn't care about what a large majority of the population says. I think a lot of awareness of what is happening around us as a community, as a country, has come about in only the last 1 year. I think before that, a lot of Abbas's poems were about himself, was about social injustice that he experienced himself on a very, very individual basis. But I feel that over the years, especially exposure to spoken word poetry that happens in some really beautiful places in India, exposed him to the ideas of, let's say, the LGBTQ plus community, or like voices being muffled and other poets speaking about that. I think that has played a huge influence in him kind of choosing sides or creating some opinions. I also feel that so last year he made an Instagram account, and he also started following a lot of other poets on Instagram, a lot of other art, and his art consumption is very, very high, and that has led him to form certain opinions. However, it's not as if he is disconnected from them. I think he talks about issues that he sees every day also in his community. He deeply believes in what he talks about. I've never for once seen someone else's voice in his poem. It's his own voice, because he strongly supports whatever he's talking about. I've also seen some behavioral changes. I think Abbas has tried to create spaces where he could express even apart from like spoken word poetry, which was, I remember Abbas starting to put a bindi as an act of defiance. At some point of time, he cut his hair. Then he wasn't observing some religious practices because he felt that the message of those practices was something that his community was not practicing. So I remember Abbas texting me one night that corporal punishment is happening in his school, and he wanted me to do something about it. And I was like, of course I can do something about it. I can reach out to people, and they will, come to your school, and they will talk to other students, and you can tell the incidents to them, and then you can get together. And I remember him being really, really scared at that point of time, because he was also like, if things don't turn out the way we want them to turn out, he will be at the mercy of the teachers who were causing that corporal punishment in the school. So I gave him the number of someone else whom I knew in the Protection of Child Rights Committee, and I also remember how he very strategically planned how he would go about giving people's names, as in complaining, and how he would also go about rallying other children in his class together to form a very small mini revolution or movement. What I also saw within that time was that it took him about 2 to 3 months to actually, from the day when he said that, Didi, it's gone over the top, children are being brutally beaten in classroom, to the day when he actually filed that complaint with a set of other kids. It took a solid 1.5 months, where he put a lot of time in strategically also ensuring that he doesn't become collateral damage in this process, but also that a lot of people learn to come together for a cause. And I felt such strong leadership come out of him in this incident, when he gathered people in his class together for something that he felt was very, very wrong. I think it's because he so strategically thought about it, it was a reality that he knew takes time. As an artist, also, I think he realizes that mindset shift is the biggest shift to bring about, and it doesn't happen through a complaint, it doesn't happen in a month. I think at that point his priority was that the physical act of beating should be stopped. And this dream or this vision of this mentality going away from teachers' minds, which is about how beating is correct for children, and how you, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. He knows that mentality will take long to go away, and that's not a battle he fought at that time. I think at that time his battle was about making the physical act stop in his class, because it was affecting so many children in so many ways, and I think he succeeded at it. Most of my conversations with Abbas haven't been about writing rap or writing poetry, which also have been quite a few, but most of our conversations have been about life, how we see things, what makes us us, what seems worth fighting for, what does having a voice mean. I think conversations around those broader topics has not only enabled me to gain a lot in terms of perspective, but I've also felt that have pushed him to think about questions which are beyond the obvious, and I think that's also a practice which I've continued with all the other kids that I work with, because after a point, talking about techniques and how to make poems better feels a little secondary to talking about the bigger questions. I think one huge factor which gives a safe space for children to express is also time, and I felt that I've spent incredibly long hours with the children, talking to them about what a safe space for them would look like, and trying to create that then for them, drawing from their ideas. I also feel that in the first year, when he realized that all the other kids who are in the group were talking about things that were important to them, he felt he had the permission to do so as well. I also think the space that we have as a circle, as a group of children, is a space which is very much that of equals. I do not feel that there is a teacher-student gap in that space, and I think that's also a practice which I've continued with all the other kids that I work with, because after a point, talking about the bigger questions. I think one huge factor which gives a safe space for children to express is also time, and I felt that I've spent incredibly long hours with the children, talking to them about what a safe space for them would look like, and trying to create that then for them. I also feel that in the first year, when he realized that all the other kids who are in the group were talking about things that were important to them, he felt he had the permission to do so as well. I also think the space that we have as a circle, as a group of children, is a space which is very much that of equals. I do not feel that there is a teacher-student gap in that space, just like other children have given Abbas the permission to succeed, I also think I myself and other children have also given him the permission to fail. We try new things together. I am a prime example at failing at stuff. Also with running Slam Out Loud, so many things, like much more things go wrong than they go right. And sharing those experiences with children has also enabled them to take bigger risks. Like 2 children in the group, actually all of them in the group kind of got together and started their own initiative of bringing arts into their communities. And I think a lot of that was influenced by the work at Slam Out Loud and me telling them that for every one success there are at least like 10 failures behind it, and sharing those has been helpful in creating that safe space as well. I think although my views resonate a lot with what Abbas says, as a mentor, my duty and my obligation, I feel, is to question him, however, and offer another perspective, even if it is something sometimes which I myself do not agree to, but I do offer him the perspective which is very, very different from his. What I also try to do is to connect him to art forms different from what he already follows. I think great artists are able to create a lot of great art also when they get inspired, and it's also important for them to be able to see and interact with great art which can get lost in this social media bubble, which is currently his only form of consumption of art. So I try to bridge that gap by providing in books, by providing videos, by providing any kind of art which I feel would provoke him to also think differently from how he thinks. So for arts to be powerful, it has to be really, really moving. And it moves only when it is excellent. A lot of art is produced on a daily basis all over the world, and artists themselves realize that a lot of products or art which is created for the first time is very, very different from what it looks like when it is worked upon 400 times and then it's put out in the world. The work we do at Slam Out Loud, I've always felt that nobody should ever come to watch our children perform because they come from a disadvantaged community or because they're poor, but I would want people to come and see children perform because they're excellent performers. And I've seen that happen with Abbas. Today anyone who sees Abbas perform knows that he's a world-class poet. And his writing is so, so powerful, and that removes the element of someone else thinking of him as disadvantaged, although he is in so many socio-economical ways. But when it comes to art, he is inspiring and his art is very, very powerful.